want it back, back, back. I'ma need you want it back, back, back. I'ma need you want it back, spread eagle. I like a lot of money.
Obviously, as I start recording, my new neighbor has just started doing some DIY. We're going to press on.
Give me a break.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Inspired By, where we look at the musical trends, past and present, so that you guys can make better music. My name's Will. I make an assortment of music under the moniker Hushchild. I got a new studio environment today. It's probably going to change a little bit in the background as I start to get things set up. But enough of that. Let's jump straight into it. So today I want to jump into 5 viral remix techniques for vocals that have been used in trending sounds. What do I mean by trending sounds? Well, all of those songs that have gone famous via TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We're going to be ramping up the tempos and spreading across a whole bunch of genres. But I want to start things off with that slowed and reverbed sound. So let's dive into the project. So this sound is super popular at the minute on TikTok. Stretching, slowing, and adding reverb to a song. Sometimes it's a remix like this, and sometimes the song itself is just stretched and added with reverb. Let's dive into how we can create this technique. So for this technique in particular, what you want to start with is a vocal. I want to get an a cappella. And as you can tell, this video is sponsored by lalal.ai. I'll have a little bit more about them later on. So I actually got my a cappella from the acoustic session rather than the single. It just translated way better when slowing the song down. So make sure that you kind of shop around for that vocal. It sounded like this.
All the other kids with the pumped up kicks, you better run, loud run.
So as you can tell, I've got Valhalla and a delay on send A with a compressor. That compressor is linked to this track itself. It means that when the vocal is performing and is audible, that reverb wash and delay isn't going to be bouncing over the vocal. It's going to sit underneath it, and the delay is only going to come through when there's any kind of gaps where the vocalist maybe takes a breath. And then I'm just EQing that reverb and delay. For the vocal itself, you can go a couple of ways about stretching this out. If we double click on our clip, what we can do is warp it and then go to texture. And then you can start to stretch this vocal out by taking the tempo down.
All the other kids with the pumped up.
And then what you're going to do is play around with the grain size and the flux. As far as I understand grain size, it's how many times that vocal is chopped up into little bits. You're going to get more of a phase sound with a short grain size.
All the other kids with the pumped up.
And you're going to hear more parts of the vocal with a larger grain size. Underneath, flux is going to change where that kind of sample occurs. So you're not going to have the same repeating kind of grain size. It's going to move it around a bit.
All the other kids with the pumped up kicks, you better run,
So you can hear that kind of elastic band sound is moving around the headphone space a little bit more. Play around with these settings so you can limit the amount of transients that are going to be heard. After that, add some reverb so you can try and hide some of those grain positions.
All the other kids with the pumped up.
By adding EQ, you can also limit some of those sounds. For my example, the technique was a lot simpler. What I did was just take the vocal track and pitch it down 6 semitones. It gives you this. And then going to add that EQ as before. And then I used CLA vocals just to pull it out the mix a little bit. Vocal rider, just so it tames some of these loud vocals. Glue compressor, obviously going to glue it together a little bit more. And then the EQ8 here, just to get rid of this annoying frequency here, and then to do a little bit of EQ automation on the low pass as well. Underneath, I'm adding a pitched up version of the vocal. It's a nice effect, but it helps it pull it out the mix too, keeping that super, super low in the mix. I found these lovely chords from Coda Clef on TikTok, played that in via the Decent Sampler, and then alongside some pads, I froze and flattened those elements so I could then stretch and add reverb just as I did with the vocal too. A lot of times with these viral sounds, they're adding rain samples underneath, so we can do that as well. And then we're left with our final result. So as I open the next project, as I mentioned, I got a lot of these vocal samples from lalal.ai, and it was really nice of them to reach out. They'd reached out about a year ago, and I genuinely wasn't interested in featuring them on the channel. And they actually reached out just recently, a year later, saying, we hear you, we've made loads of updates, and we're now actually the first 10 stem separator in the world. And it really piqued my interest. Just in separating vocals from the instrumental alone, it's really, really terrific. Just for my own noodlings, I was interested if it could split the synths from the rest of a famous trance tune. Check this out. If you're old enough, do you remember this one? Probably just got demonetized, but hey, amazing stuff. They've also got a referral program, so if you invite your friend to lalal.ai, they will also get 10 free minutes of download time. But we're focusing on vocals today, so let's crack on with it. So this is more of that kind of Eldre lo-fi influence. You can do this with the vocal, or you can replace the vocal line with MIDI. Let's look at both. This was actually from a live performance that I did, so I'm not keen on the mix, but it sounds like this. So with lalal, it's really easy to get that vocal. I'm just adding a little bit of shaper box, so it's ducking the vocal. It's also doing some filter in there. And then I'm EQing that vocal and adding a little bit of reverb. Real easy to get the chords for this. As you can tell, I downloaded a piano tutorial of that song. Right click it and then just convert harmony to new MIDI track. It's not always perfect, but for this example, it was really good. And then I'm making sure that those famous guitar parts of the song are stood out with the synth. And as I mentioned, you might not want to have the vocal as the lead part. You might want to replace that vocal. So what we can do is right click and do convert harmony or convert melody to MIDI track as well. Or if you have a good ear, you could just play that part in. Most of these lo-fi tunes are slowed down slightly, the high end of the track is rolled off, and the drums have a slightly skippy beat. Let's keep upping that tempo and move on to something a little bit quicker. You're really going to like this one. This is a viral sound that I've heard on the likes of TikTok from artists like Sick, but also in the live environment from people like Fred Again, Skrillex, and Bicep. Sounds a little bit like this. The way that we do this is we just use a kick drum to create that rhythm. In context, it sounds like this. So how do we create this sound here? So what we do is we take a long legato vocal sample, something like this. As you can tell with my example, I've kind of cut it up into different notes or different chords. So underneath, I also have some chords from the pad, which is going to help out that vocal. It's going to make it sound bigger. And then what you want to do is assign a gate to that. I like to add a gate and a little bit of reverb and then EQ it after. And then you link that gate to your kick drum sound or clap sound, whatever you want to use to chop up the rhythm of the vocal. So side chaining this to my kick in this example. Do the same with the bass. And then add my drums. Nice, easy one, that one. Let's move on. This next example is even easier, and the inspiration comes from the likes of Oliver Tree and Rain Radio. Users on TikTok have been speeding up versions of existing songs, normally taking the acapella and add in like a speed garage or speed house beat to the track. I've got Kylie Minogue's Love at First Sight. The chorus from the track, to be specific, sounds like this. I've added the phaser to add a little bit more of a housey feel. Then I add a lower vocal underneath. I'm going to add like a housey piano pattern. Your bass is going to play on the offbeat. And then just add your drums. Boots and cats all the way. you want to see if any of these vocals actually work as viral sounds, I've just started up a TikTok called Hush Child Sounds. So check it out if you're interested, and we'll see if any of these sounds do actually go viral. And as always, you can join the Patreon, where I'll be uploading the musical sessions of the projects, not the acapellas, so you can download them for educational purposes. By far, this is my favorite technique that's being used right now. It's that kind of soft clip sound of funk. We're hearing like Diverse do a lot of stuff with this. I've got two very different vocal examples. You have no idea what's coming, so make sure you stick around. And if this has been helpful, like, subscribe, let me know in the comments below.
I'ma need you want it back, back, back. I'ma need you want it back, back, back. I'ma need you want it back, spread eagle. I like a lot of money, money, money. Like a she suck me up and look evil. Need my bitch to suck me so I look single. I need my bitch to love me like she never loved a nigga. I need a little space. Space looking for the boss and I'm gonna deliver. Had a big hit, this one's bigger. Shorty.
So what we've got here is Wiz Khalifa's new song, Little Do They Know. All I'm doing is pitching this up 5 semitones, which made me match about 130 BPM. 130 BPM, really nice for that funk kind of style. We're just going to have a slightly faster house drum pattern. It's got that soft clipping sound in it as well. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a sec. Nice and easy. Got the respace ticking over there. You might need headphones. And this pad sample at the bottom. But don't forget those 808 cowbells. If you're grabbing these from Ableton, do remember that they come in a semitone up from middle C. So you'll want to transpose those just a little bit. And then I pitch mine down an octave. And then, as I said, we go back to those vocals, just speeding them up to match that tempo. All I'm doing is EQing the vocals and then adding the color limiter. That's how I'm getting that soft clip sound in this example. The color limiter, I've got a short on it if you want to check it out. We're going to bring that loudness up to 22 dB, bring the ceiling height down a little bit, decrease the release so that it takes effect really, really quickly, and then up the saturation. You can mess with the color, which adjusts the EQ curve. So that will give us something like this.
I like a lot of money, money, like.
And then I'm just adding a little bit of shaper box so it has that ducking effect. Let's have a real quick recap of that.
This one's bigger. Shorty, you want it back, spread eagle. I like a lot of money, money, money. Like a she suck me up and look evil. Need my bitch to suck me so I look single. I need my bitch to love me like she never loved a nigga. I need a little space. But
Diverse has been doing something a little bit different.
Shorty, I'ma need you want it back, back.
And he's been using rock vocals. So this is a periphery vocal taken from lalal.ai. Same thing, EQ, color limiter. And then what I'm doing, which is quite a popular technique in funk, is just chop sections up. So with the Wiz Khalifa vocal, we've got things like this.
Money. Like she suck me up and look evil.
With the periphery vocal, we've got something like this. Add in a little bit of delay and reverb as we saw before on the sense. When I do chop up the vocal into these tiny sections, there will often be a time when I pitch one of the vocals up and one of the vocals down so they don't sound too repetitive. And again, you can hear that example in the Wiz Khalifa vocal here. So there's all our techniques, guys. Let me know which one you're most interested to hear a finished edit of. Remember, we're over at Hush Child Sounds now on TikTok, Hush Child on Spotify, and at The Will Hatton for absolutely everything else. Head to at The Will Hatton on Patreon to download the stems for this project without the acapellas. If you want to stay updated, do make sure you subscribe, hit that bell icon, like the video if you want to see more things like it, and let me know in the comments what you want to see in future episodes, as well as what you think I should do with this space. It's a little bit dark right now, so we're definitely going to have to get some more lights and put some soundproofing up. But it is great to be back, guys, and I can't wait to see you next time.